All right, we're back in Matthew,
Chapter 4.
chapter 4. Um, so this is labeled Satan tempts Jesus, the naughty, naughty boy. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Sidebar. Sorry, stop so short. Do you think this is the same wilderness that John the Baptist was living in? Or is
Mm.
this a different location? This is like a different time and location of these things? Or this
I mean,
was also before he was baptized? Because I don't know
well,
chronologically, do they go into
if
this?
it's chronological, I mean, I think that it's right after, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so
It's
then it
it
might be.
it's very possible it's the same wilderness, but the wilderness is probably big too.
Well,
Or you
when was John the Baptist arrested in relation to Jesus being baptized?
probably not too long after, I think probably, but not right away.
Because it's fair, because I don't know if it gets into the Bible, but I mean, it wouldn't be, I don't think Jesus would have been happy that John would have been in prison because of like John's
Right.
part in his journey. So I think, granted, we'll never know, but I think that could have been like a catalyst. Like John going into prison would have been a catalyst for Satan to have an opportunity to tempt Jesus.
Oh,
Because it's something as a human being that would have thrown you off your faith. Possibly.
I
Like if
understand.
the person that you're looking up to and like is part of your teaching, because like he views John as the same as himself. He talks to him because like John the Baptist is like, why would I baptize you? You should be baptizing me. And Jesus is like, no, we're the same. Like we all have a part in this. We're doing our thing.
No, I just looked it up, so forgive me. I understand what you're saying on that part. And then it in Matthew 14, let me just look really quick. Uh, I this is so Matthew 14 talks about Herod and the tetrarch that heard the reports about Jesus, said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead." Okay, so let's see. I'm going to have to read it because now I'm getting
You're good.
lost in the time. But anyways, it is interesting. So Matthew 14. At the time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the report about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He's risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are working him." For Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had said to him, "It's not lawful for you to have her." And although he wanted to put him to death, he feared the multitude, and because they counted him as a prophet, they counted John the Baptist as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. So having been prompted by her mother, "Give me John the Baptist's head on here on a platter." And the king was sorry. Nevertheless, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he commanded it to be given to her. And he sent and had John beheaded and in prison. And his head was brought to him on a platter, given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. Then his disciples came and took away the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. Mm.
Look, I can think of very few other ways to disrespect somebody further than what was done in what you just read.
The
That's
the
like, I mean, that's like having somebody kill your best friend and do something else, maybe not his best friend, but somebody kill them, and then come specifically tell you about it.
Now his disciples, John the Baptist, his disciples are telling you about him. So that is
Well, you're
that,
still hearing about it.
but you're hearing about it. So that must be really hard for Jesus, right? Is what you
I'm
mean.
and Yeah, I'm only talking about this in this way because we're about to go into the temptations of Jesus.
Right. So you're trying to figure
That's
out the
the
time.
that's the
Yeah,
circle.
the circle. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this was after the temptations and after his ministry.
Okay.
But it does say 13, when Jesus heard it, he departed from there by a boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from the city. So he went to have that time. That would
So
make
the
sense.
timing, who knows?
So because most people think that the temptation was before he started his ministry, like
That's what
in
I had kind of assumed.
yeah. So they most people say there's like a 3 year, maybe a 3 year gap between when he started and when he died.
Right. I
Maybe.
mean, there's no between 3 or 4. I wish I wish we could have been there.
You wish you could have been there
Well, I wish I
to
would have. I'll take being a fly on the wall, dude. I don't
to
even have
be
to be a whole person.
just to look to be there when Jesus or
Yeah.
okay. No, I understand. Yes. To have experienced it and to listen,
Yeah.
knowing what we know now. Not because if we were there, would we know what
Well,
we because some people didn't accept what he said there.
so
But a lot of people,
When Enoch was taken to heaven to witness whatever he was, I mean, and he got to come back to Earth, and he told his son everything. So, I mean, I
oh, so
guess if God wanted to, he could make you.
he could make you go to
Well,
see
at
what
the
Jesus
same time, I
went
don't think
through.
he could. Could God make you forget?
Probably. I'm sure.
Well, let's not think about, of course he could make us forget. Is there a moral obligation on that? Is it, I think it's unethical to make people forget.
Okay.
I think it is.
Right.
It might not
Right.
be. It might not, but
I I understand what you're saying.
because I think
Mm,
to a certain degree, if you make people forget, it does mess with their free will because
yeah.
they're not making decisions based on all available facts because you made them forget some of them.
Wow.
So it's like,
Wow.
it's
That's
the, like, this is God, but understand like there's still some form of self accountability that he has. Like he had the power to destroy the earth. It's a power that he holds, and he has to have the self accountability to not do. Isn't that why we have rainbows?
that's a promise that the earth won't
That
be
he
destroyed
wouldn't do that again.
with a flood, right?
Right.
But it could
Sorry,
be,
guys.
but it would be. Oh,
I
so
know it's joking, but like, you know, it the concept of being able to do it and not do it, I think is powerful. Because like it
oh, I
shows that you have the restraint and you have the control of yourself to be able to be capable of doing anything, but only doing what is right.
because he could destroy us any second.
Right.
He has the power. He has the power. Lord, you have the power. Thank you for grace. Thank you for the grace that we're here. And hopefully we can glorify God.
And look, I don't know. I haven't read this, but this is like sometimes I'll think about it. And like Jesus, I think, was an opportunity for God to build a different relationship with his people than he had in the Old Testament.
Right. There's definitely more personal, like that personal relationship, right?
Yeah,
And the Holy Spirit lives within us now, where it was
right.
only
Like there
so
was there was a
yeah,
change in the
Lord.
way that things were like understood and written and perceived in between the two books and through the process of Jesus's life and story.
And dying, yes, and giving,
Hopefully, I think that was the goal of what he was trying
yeah,
to do.
right,
But
yeah,
okay, that's
yeah,
verse one.
first one.
Uh, and
Verse,
when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, afterwards he was hungry, naturally.
yeah.
Now, when the tempter came to him, he said, if you are the Son of God, command that these stones became bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him up into the holy city, set him on the pinnacle of a temple, and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from it, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge over you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against the stone. Okay. Um,
That's a reference from Psalm 91. But this is
oh, you got the references. Okay. I think I had questions about the holy city. Oh, the
it.
tempter. So it doesn't specifically name
I mean, in verse 5 it says the devil,
Satan.
and then it says, I mean,
Well,
in
the
verse
devil. But could that just mean that like that was a spirit that took over a human's body to interact with Jesus? If you
mm,
understand what I'm saying, and not like a physical, but it also says he took him up on top of a pinnacle. So the temple,
right. I've never totally noticed. I mean, I knew, but it's like, did Jesus like, I mean, if I take you up, like if I don't have that power, but if I
right?
had
Is
the
he like,
power to move you physically,
or
then
is it like some guy just led him to this place where he had this interaction?
like come follow me.
Well,
But
yeah, he might have just
took him
been taught.
sounds
He,
like right.
well, have you never been on top of a tall building and you never been like, I wonder what happened if I would throw myself off? Like
Um,
I think they're called intrusive thoughts.
okay.
But that is maybe similar because it's like a temptation.
I mean, the pinnacle of a temple doesn't sound like it's like if it's more of a supernatural taking up as opposed to
That's how I want it to be. I want it
that's
to be the
why
devil just taking Jesus up, like, as if they're just like flying like superheroes. And he takes them, above the city and they're looking down and they're like, just
right,
fucking throw yourself off. Well, he says throw himself off, so he's probably standing, but so throw yourself off, kill yourself. And he's like, the angels, if you are the Son of God, right?
right.
Because that's the
Me too.
question that he's trying to answer is if you are the Son of God or not.
Or is he trying to get him out of what his
Or that's
purpose?
just the tactic he used in this circumstance.
Yeah, I think maybe, I think obviously
And
we
in
don't,
their hands
yeah,
they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone.
because he knows the word too. He's using the word of God too. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting too, because like so am I to understand that like those verses that were chosen, regardless of if they were written in the Bible or not, they were chosen by the devil
Right.
to misrepresent a situation.
To make him say, yes, to
Because
misrepresent, to
in
make
there,
Jesus
he
do what he wants.
used that verse to get his point across, but I mean, he somehow was able to fit in the stone as well, which if Jesus had thrown himself off, he probably would have gotten splattered upon. So there's like the word connection to that as well, to the situation that he was physically going through.
Mm.
Maybe. If there was
And
stone streets, it depends where it was.
oh yeah, I'm
Because
sure.
I assume if you have built a temple, you probably figured out stone streets.
Right, probably. I would
So
think so, yes.
I'd have to say, and who knows where he is? Maybe
But
he
this is
spent.
like not, 2000 years ago, not like
This
this.
gives me like Istanbul vibes. This is where I want it to be taking place, is like in Istanbul or Turkey.
Yeah, because Jerusalem probably, well, it would
Well,
be
he
in,
wasn't in Jerusalem the entire time. He had to
right.
come
He's in the
back to
wilderness,
Jerusalem to
right,
die.
on the pinnacle of the temple. I would think the temple would be Jerusalem temple they're talking about, but I
I don't
understand it.
know.
Would it look like what you think of Istanbul? Maybe, the same
Yeah.
streets.
And a lot of this too, like I know I go very in depth
Then,
into this, but like I am trying to like visualize it so I can better put myself in a situation to where I can better understand it. Because like it is, I think, unwise of me to try and understand this stuff without trying to do a little bit of extra work. And like sometimes a lot of the time I'm a visual learner, so I try and create a story in my head of like what it would look like so I can kind of like put myself into it.
right.
But who
Like,
knows?
yes.
But I mean, if I think about it that way, I'm sure somebody else has got to think about it that way.
Right, exactly. And other
So,
ways too, but
right.
definitely some that would think of it like that too. Yes, for
Mm.
sure. For sure.
But Jesus claps back again and says, "It is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God."
So even
Again,
though, right, like them verses are true, but you don't test the Lord with them.
right. Like your questions, while they are valid, are not allowed
Right.
because of rules that we already set up and talked about.
But it's one thing where God protects you from a situation, but you don't deliberately go into a situation and do it to test God.
That too, but the devil is also taking those words out of context.
Mm,
So he's
yeah,
taking words out of the Old Testament, which is a whole book, to fit his needs in a certain circumstance to make somebody else do something.
right, right. And thankfully, Jesus has the answer. Thank
Right.
you.
He said, not
Mm.
today.
Not tempting. Yes, it is
So
written.
again, the devil took him upon an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to them, all these things I will give to you if you will fall down and worship me. Now, I would like to make a little caveat here. Is the devil lying to Jesus when he says that? Is that something that the devil could give him if he were to have said yes? Because I think a lot of people will read that and be like, I can show you the world, but can you really? Like, is that something? But like, did God give Satan dominion over the world? Like, was he allowed to give Jesus that position of power?
Right, that is a good question. I mean, he does have some.
influence on the world and its actions, right?
Yes,
Or the
yes.
to some extent.
Right. I got you exactly. So I know what you mean. Is it an empty promise or does he have the
Right.
to actually follow through with what he said?
Like, and just like I'm not trying to like stand up for the guy, but just because he does bad things doesn't mean that he has to lie all the time. Like that could have been something that he could have promised somebody.
All
Like,
depends.
don't think that every time that somebody lies to you, it's not going to be an empty promise. Sometimes they can back their promises up.
But is it something you really want?
Right. And that's for you to decide at the end of
And
the
do you
day.
want to give up what they're asking you to give up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm. And then Jesus said to him, away with you, Satan. For it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve. So, the one,
So we know, yeah.
yeah. Then the devil left him, and
Mm,
behold, so he went away.
mm,
Said,
yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. And behold, angels came and ministered to him. So, okay. So they were, I'm sure, do you think he had questions? He's like, hey, what was that about?
Right, Jesus, you mean? Yeah, I know. Because he was still a man too, right? So we have to.
And like, Jesus was led by the Spirit of God. So, like,
Oh, in
he
verse 1, yeah.
he was
Wow,
probably just guided to take a walk,
by the Holy
and
Spirit.
all this stuff started happening to him. And then he finally gets to the end of this whole ordeal. And now all the angels have to come down and like explain all this stuff to him. And uh
Or when, like, now he minister, they, you know,
well,
help
they
him.
meant like and like this is the Son of God, and you're now having angels coming down and ministering. So they're teaching
Yes.
him now. Because
Oh, yeah. I
if
never
again,
thought
if
of
we're gonna
it.
go with the choice of word that they're using, they didn't explain, they didn't clarify, they weren't like, comforting him. He wasn't scared. They were ministering to him, so there was a purpose behind it.
Okay, because I thought of ministering too as like
Not to say that's bad, like
food
obviously,
and water and thing,
and
but
that may be how you
you're
take it as
thinking
well.
more of ministering as teaching, right? Hmm.
Yeah.
That is
I
a
mean, if I have faith, I know I wouldn't be scared after that, but I would definitely have questions, especially if I wasn't kept in the loop.
right, right. It would be hard, right?
Yeah, just like,
I
hey,
mean, if we go through a test or trial, I mean, at the end, you do feel exhausted. And I mean, and he fasted 40 days before this. So,
I think I understand what they see by new age, but we'll get into that another time. That new age way of thinking. Like I
okay,
said, no, we will. We'll talk about it soon.
let's see.
Um,
Oh
where
no,
are we?
411. We are, I just want to go to see the Bible Hub in other words if they use, okay. So this is in other versions. Instead of ministered, they came and attended him, came and
Okay.
took care of him, ministering to him.
So
That
it
you
might be,
serve,
I mean,
serve him. Began, yeah, sorry,
who knows? He might have been shaken up.
bringing him food and serving him. The Amplified says began to.
Oh, is this also uh because this is post 40 days,
This is after the 40 days. Yes,
so he hadn't eaten or drank as well.
yeah, yes,
So if we take it out of the mind and back into reality,
into like a physical as well.
a
Is that what
physical sense, which would, I think, be a little more pressing at the time,
right?
they ministered to him. What is, Maybe he did have questions.
Right. And he might have had questions too. Yeah. Reassurance, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and number 12 answers your question from before.
And we will get back to that after we get a little bit of peace within ourselves.
Oh, yes. So, Lord, peace be with you. Lord bless.